myself, because I don't think you need one.
Until you hit 10 into the woods, and then it doesn't look so good for
Welcome,
you.
fellow Toastmasters and guests, to another meeting of the Toastmasters. Our presiding officer is running a little bit late, so to hold down the fort until she gets here, I'll welcome our. You just pass on. Yeah. I'll welcome up Mr. Joe Hoffman.
Traditionally, if it goes in order of the next presiding officer. I'm Joe Hoffman. I'm the VP of Education. I'm welcoming everybody here to our Frederick Toastmasters meeting tonight. We have lots of guests. Oh, and Beth just arrived, so I'll stall long enough for her to get settled in. I'll introduce a guest for you, unless you want to do that. You love doing that, don't you?
Thank you, Joe. Missed the food, but made it to the meeting. Yes. Fellow Toastmasters and guests. I saw some guests. We do have guests. Good. Welcome to another meeting of Toastmasters Club 1082, Frederick Toastmasters, best club in the world, in my opinion. And tonight was a special night. We did the open house and potluck because this year, for the first time, the Toastmasters International direction changed on when we do contests and how we do them, and that rippled on down, and it made a schedule such that we needed to finish our club level contests in January. And so instead of doing our open house and potluck to sort of celebrate the new year and holidays, in January we sort of flip-flopped because we used to do our contests in February. So that's why we're doing it in February. It's kind of a late New Year's celebration. And it's also a great way to have some opportunity to socialize, especially with our guests, newcomers, before we get into our regular meeting. And now we're having our regular meeting, which is the same structure as any other Toastmasters club around the world. And with that, I am going to ask the guests, remembered. I'm going to ask the guests to introduce themselves and tell us just very briefly what brought you here tonight. And then at the end of the meeting, we'll also ask the guests how you felt about the meeting, what you thought of it. And in between, if you want to participate, you absolutely can, but you don't have to. We're not asking you to do anything except to give us a chance, and if you like it, come back and visit again and maybe join. So, our first guest, if you would introduce yourself.
Okay, my name is Lisette. This is my first time coming to this meeting. I just wanted to, well, I heard about it from my husband, and that's my daughter, so 3 of us here support each other. Try to get better at public speaking, and also, you know, like to run meetings or do presentations and do stuff like that. I feel more comfortable, and that's what I'm trying to get out of this. And,
I'm Jonathan Gilbart. She said I'm Lucy's husband. I was saying before, the reason I'm here is because I'm terrified of public speaking. Don't have a lot of fears, but that's pretty darn high up on my list. So hopefully I can, get more confident about that, and that's what I hope to accomplish here.
You've come to the right place.
Okay, so hi, I'm Megan Gilbart. I'm your daughter. I'm here as basically like the support crew for them, but also I want to get better at public speaking myself. I think I'm probably going to have to do a couple more presentations in my life sometimes, so here I am.
My name is Rick Police, and I've been meaning to join, or at least come to a meeting for the past year. I just took a position as a director of marketing and sales for a company in Northern Virginia. I do a lot of presentations. Some people say I don't do a very good job sometimes. So I'm here to see how get a little more confident, upgrade, and get some advice and do a little better at it.
Terrific. I think that's it for guests tonight. Oh, and I found my spot. All right, good. Then the next item on the agenda, I think, is the inspiration. Oh, and I am ready. And tonight we have Alex Ball to give us the inspiration for the evening.
my story, but it's kind of an interesting one. So, I did really bad in college, and I thought I graduated, so I went to graduation, I walked across the stage, and a month later I got a message, and they said, we're sorry to inform you, you did not actually graduate. And it's because I had too low of a GPA in a certain area of study in my major. Now, I got really, really lucky, and the dean of computer science gave me a very special exception that let me graduate. That's probably because I actually got a 4.0 my last semester, so I had a quick rally, and maybe it just felt bad for me. So I couldn't find a job for a while, not surprisingly. I got my first job, and then after that I got a contracting position 6 months ago. And this week I was offered a full-time position at College Board, which is kind of ironic that I'm working in an education company. And I did that by just applying myself for once in my life. So, I really do truly believe that anybody, regardless of their position, can succeed if you put in the time and effort. And I do feel like I'm, to a certain extent, a testament to that.
Thank you, Alex. And now for running the rest of the program for the rest of the evening, I would like to invite Christina Lynn Paris.
Toastmasters is where we learn and grow our communication and leadership skills. And we do that largely by participating in our meetings. My role tonight is, as Toastmaster, is to be your host and make sure that the meeting runs on track and on time. How many of you have a role tonight? So these meetings are not haphazard. Every part of it is planned. Our meeting is divided into 3 sections. The first is prepared speech session, and this is where members deliver speeches based on projects from the Toastmasters International Manuals and Pathways program. The second section is the table topics, where members and even guests can practice their thinking and speaking on their feet. Table topic speakers have 1 to 2 minutes to speak, and it will be led by our table topic master. The third session is evaluation, where members receive valuable feedback. It's one of the hallmarks of Toastmasters is that we get feedback on how we did, because we get better by practice, but we get better faster when we have feedback. And there are several special helpers tonight and they're special because they're the ones who will give us direct feedback in different areas. First is our grammarian, Cap. Would you please tell us what you'll do for us?
Yes, good evening, and thank you. I'm going to be listening for proper use of the English language. So if you don't take and speaks right, I was going to catch it for you. I will then come back and tell you, you did not speak properly, you did not speak, no, we don't have a king, you did not speak English, and try and help you correct your speech so that you use proper grammar and proper tense and proper English.
For our word of the day, please welcome Ruth.
Hello everybody, I will be presenting the word of the day, which is ergophobia.
Wow.
It's spelled E-R-G-O-P-H-O-B-I-A. And this is an intense fear of work. Not to be confused with laziness, is more related to a mental disease of somebody who's afraid of failing. So, using a word, you could say, my ergophobia is stopping me from joining that new company that just opened up down the street.
Thank you. Our Wizard of Oz tonight is Bakari. Would you please tell us what you'll be doing?
Yes, I'm going to be the fill-out catcher for tonight, I catch the words like people, when you have that pause there, you put a word there just because it seems like eternity. So I'll be counting those ones.
Our timer tonight is David.
So I'll be using this complicated newfangled device to record everyone's time and then also show everyone while they're speaking where they're at in their speech. For the speeches today, we'll be going for 5 to 7 minutes. When the light is green, that means you're good, keep going. When the light is yellow, that means it's time to wrap up. When the light hits red, in a typical competition setting, you have 30 seconds. Beyond that, you will be disqualified. So when you see the red, be sure to find a good conclusion to your speech. So again, the current speeches will be 5 to 7 minutes. The table topics will be 2 to 3 minutes, and then the evaluations will be the table topics will be 1 to 2 minutes. The evaluations will be 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. David, Lisette's is an icebreaker, so it will be 4 to 6 minutes.
Oh, well, all right then. First one for
Our vote counter tonight is Leanne.
You all have these papers in front of you, or at least for my 3 off the bottom. We'll be voting for best speaker when all the speakers are finished, best table topics, and best evaluator. And I will be tallying all the votes. Can you hold up one of those little cans there? We're going to put it in the little cans as it comes around. Yeah. And then I'll give Christine, very good Christine, the scores when we're done.
Here. Now, for the prepared speeches. Our first speaker tonight is Lisette Cologne, and she has chosen the education pathway for motivational strategies. She'll present the icebreaker, which is the very first project in level 1 in all of the educational pathways. It's a 4 to 6 minute speech opportunity for us to get to know her a little bit better. Please welcome Unboxing Lisette.
Name, Ana Lisette Colombia Nueva. Typical Spanish name. Country of birth, El Salvador. Tiny little country in Central America. Third of 4 children. Yes, I have middle child syndrome. Born to Don Edgardo and Doña Ana, my mom. As children, the experiences that we go through have a lot to do with what we are as adults. I had many experiences that shaped me, but I'd like to share 2 of them today, which I think are the experiences that I've kept in me since now that I'm an adult. First one, Doña Ana taught me this one. It was my birthday, and my party had just ended, and I had gotten 2 gifts, 2 dresses. A red one with beautiful flowers, and another one that my grandmother had sewn for me. Mom comes in the room and she says, "You have to choose one of those dresses. We're giving one away." I was about 5, 6 years old at the time, and I said, "What?" I had already in my mind said, I'm gonna wear this one and then this one. Maybe I'll wear both on the same day. I'll just change. And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Well, there's a little girl," and I knew this little girl, who is doing her first communion, and she has nothing to wear. So just choose one. So I went back and forth. Maybe I liked the red one a little more than the one my grandmother had made, but they were both really beautiful. So I decided to keep the one that had sentimental value. I kept my grandma's. In my mind, I'm thinking, first, before making the decision, this little girl, I don't even know if I would like her. But then, as I gave the dress, something happened. I felt compassion, something liberating. Even at that young age, it felt so good to give something and to think that that something was going to mean something to someone. So I learned compassion. The other one was, I was about 10 years old, and we still lived in El Salvador. And in El Salvador, there was a civil war going on. So we're playing with a friend and my little sister, and we're playing, and we hear the helicopters coming. And the helicopters are so close that we can see the soldiers inside. We go back in the house, and we sit down on the couch, all three. We're holding on to each other so tight. That day, I thought I was going to die. I thought, God, please, please, please don't let me die. I don't want to die. Fear. Fear has, recently I realized that fear has been the driver in my life. It's been driving my car of life. And it took something really difficult in my life for me to realize that. But I don't want fear to rule my life, so I decided to write Fear a letter. And I said, Fear, thank you so much for keeping me safe. I know you're here for a reason. But from now on, you can take the passenger seat. And if it's a life or death situation, you're welcome to speak. Otherwise, you can just stay there and be quiet. I still have fear, but it's a different, it's almost as if I see fear right next to me, and I'm right here. I've realized that my purpose in life has a lot to do with compassion. And even though I don't know how that's going to play out, fear is getting in the way of me unboxing my gifts. So this, Toastmasters and guests, is the reason why I'm here, to discover my gifts and get over the fear of public speaking. Thank you.
Chosen the pathway Dynamic Leadership. Tonight is a level 2 project speech of 5 to 7 minutes. In preparing for the Understanding Your Leadership Style project and pathways, Jerry had to take an assessment and then share with us about his leadership style or leadership styles in general. His assessment was inconclusive. He doesn't have a dominant style. In fact, Jerry's scores only varied by 4 points across all the leadership styles. Here to share his leadership journey is Jerry.
Have you ever heard anyone say that someone has mastered the art of leadership? Accountants are masters of the tax code. Attorneys are masters of the law. And even if we delve into the arts, we say that there are master sculptors. Yet when we describe leaders, we stop at great. Why is that? So what is leadership? I've read a ton on the topic of leadership. And recently I decided to go back to the basics. I Googled it. something very interesting. Something I hadn't come across in all the books before. Google has this tool that they call the Google Ngram Viewer. So what it is it takes all words used throughout all of literary history, and it takes that keyword and shows you how many times that word has shown up in history throughout time. Fascinating. Let's look into leadership. The chart was right in front of me. I looked at the chart, and the chart of leadership goes from the 1800s to present day. In the 1800s, it's very near rock bottom. Around the 1900s, it slopes up, and it has kept going up and up and up. Well, to interpret that and know what that means, I decided to look up the word management. Same type of chart, only management is almost flat throughout the whole 1800 to present day time period. In 1940, the word leadership actually surpasses management in use in literary language. That means it's a relatively new term. So what I'd like to tell you today is about my leadership journey and how the word leadership has meant different things to me at different stages in my life. When I was a kid, I wanted to be king of the castle. I wanted to be an authoritative figure on my block that said we were playing football today and we're going to cap it off with a great game of ditch under the streetlight at night. I grew up in a great cul-de-sac, tons of kids. But I soon realized that that authoritative style doesn't last long if you're not inclusive. So I started to learn those interpersonal skills that help you relate to others and get them to come along on your journey. Next, I remember my views of leadership changing in college. I was just enamored with charisma. I thought about John F. Kennedy and Bill Clinton and the immortal John Belushi. Toga, toga. I wanted people to come along on my journey then as well. The next stage of my life and my leadership journey was the early stages of my career. There, I started to see a lot more how leadership and management come together, where you have to achieve goals, or it's not just about you and your personal objectives, but the objectives of others. And then something extraordinary happened. I was driving home, and the area manager for Wells Fargo called me. He said, "When can you be in Lancaster, Pennsylvania?" I said, "Well, let's see, I'm on the road now, 80, have to get showered. I can be there in an hour and a half." He said, "Okay, you need to be there. The police are escorting out the current manager right now. You're to seize his laptop, take over control of the office, and it's your office now." Like, wonderful that you're hiding in your office for this. I mean, you're in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. I'm on the interstate outside New York City. Nonetheless, a fantastic opportunity to lead. And not just lead, but lead through a time of diversity. What followed, I'm proud to say, was actually part of a Harvard study, but one of the senior vice presidents of Wells Fargo did for their education at Harvard. Because I had to change the culture in that office. I went in that day when the manager was being escorted out of the office. I had to let several people go. I had to work with those people that were in the office to make them want to come to work, upskill them in areas they needed upskilled, because the previous manager had some of those people involved in his scheme and they weren't really up to the level that they needed to be at, rather they were his pawns. So I had all these challenges to overcome, and the only way I overcame them was to build a culture and a team that had passion. They had a will to go to work and make the world a better place. We overhauled the office. I made sure to work with the cleaning crews to get the floors clean. I had to paint the walls using some GL code nobody ever heard of so that I didn't get in trouble. And through all of that, I was building, again, more leadership tools, more interpersonal skills that help through leadership. The thing is, leadership is challenging. And I think the reason why we stop at saying that a leader is great is because leadership is an ideal. And it's an ideal we're striving for, because when we strive to be leaders, even as a young kid, we make neighborhoods more inclusive. We get through people through hardship, like I did in the Lancaster office. And we create some fun memories along the way, like John Belushi's toga party. With that, I turn it over to our Toastmaster of the evening.
Now, to lead the table topics portion of our meeting. Oh, yes, let's vote. Thanks, Joe.
The names? This one got it. Yes, no speaker. This one, we did the second one.
Still coming.
So now can you pass it back to the next?
Okay? Now, to lead the table topics portion of our meeting, please welcome Wilfred.
All right, so my role for the table topics is in two folds. So the first fold is to give everyone the opportunity to speak, especially our guests or those who didn't sign up for a room. And the second fold of it is to encourage everyone to learn to stand and think and speak in the public arena. So with that said, I have a list of topics that I would ask volunteers, I read the subject and I ask volunteers to come and speak on that. I would encourage those who don't have a role or are guests to take the first shot at it. So, I have this here. So the first question that I have is, what do you wish you spent most time doing in the past 5 years? So what do you wish you spent more time doing 5 years? If it's too difficult, I'll change it. I have a serious question.
Jerry's going to show how it's done.
Here to conquer your ergophobia of table topics is Jerry Stevens. And in the last 5 years, I do wish that I had spent more time with friends and family. Right after Christmas, we were driving home from my family get-together, and we got a phone call. My wife happens to have just 2 sisters. A dad. Mom passed about 2 years ago, and both her sisters happen to be old maids, very few friends, no significant others. So we are everything to them. They were both going to a concert in Washington, D.C., T-boned at about 55 miles an hour. Her oldest sister had suffered injuries, broken spine, broken hips, and a broken collarbone. She ended up recovering fairly quickly. Jennifer, however, took a lot longer. She is actually just walking as of last week. So life is precious. I have a 4-year-old son at home, and I spend every moment that I can with him just creating those memories. And we have enjoyed sharing those memories with Vicky's sisters and their family, and we hope to spend more time with our friends as well in the next 5 years, so that Wilford, when I see you next time you do table topics, we can have a different conversation.
Okay, good, thank you.
I invite you back up.
So I forgot to mention that you are supposed to use 1 to 2 minutes for the table topics. So the next that I have here is, so this is an interesting one. So it's, do you think crying is a sign of weakness or strength? I would like either our guest or anyone who hasn't signed up for a role to pick that.
Crying a sign of weakness or strength? I guess it all depends on the situation that you're in. In corporate America, breaking down and crying is completely unacceptable. A sign of weakness, a sign of your inability to control yourself, to command the situation, to hold yourself, to be able to just swallow it and be professional. But I think there are situations in life where there's something personal, something that happened, that you need to be able to cry. You need to be able to express yourself. And it's not as much a sign of strength, but it's just having the ability to not hold back and just show people that you're human, that you're able to, that you feel something, that you're not just there. Especially for me, I think seeing a man cry and express himself, I think is actually a sign of strength.
The next topic that I have reads, what life lesson did you learn the hard way? So again, what life lesson did you learn the hard way?
Life lesson did I learn the hard way? I have learned a lot of life lessons in the last couple of years. I have learned the hard way that I matter. I decided to divorce my husband, who, we won't get into that. But he just ignored me. I decided coming here to learn to use my voice. I feel that God led me here because he has bigger plans for me than just sitting home being scared of everything. So this was a big life lesson, coming here and learning to use my voice. You all listen to me and care what I have to say. I am still learning that what I have to say actually matters to people, and people want to listen to me. It is really a big deal for me. So learning to put everything else behind me and move forward has been a big life lesson for me.
Thank you. first. When was the last time you tried something new? When was the last time you tried something new?
Last weekend.
Yeah.
That's the last time I tried something new. It was actually beer. You know, my daughter likes beer. And so when I go to, and I have an app for that I track it, and also wine. So I can track and make sure I haven't tried that beer or wine before.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's what life's about, making new experiences, trying new things. Sure, and I also like to go with some of our friends who also like beer or wine and sample them. So you go around and taste a little bit and say, oh, I don't like that one. You know, so it's, you know, that's one thing I like to do is try new things. Like tonight, we had some different dishes there. I like to make sure I taste a little bit of everything, just so I can say, oh yeah, I like that or I don't like that. Because you don't know what you don't like until you tried it. So that's the thing I try to do is when I try to find something new, I try to experience, you know, I like food. And I have to watch how much I eat because otherwise I'd be, you know, pretty rotund. Ergophobia. It's like I have ergophobia. I'm trying to think. I know phobia, but I'm trying to try a new word here. I wasn't very successful at that, but that's how you learn. So, but the bottom line is try new stuff. I like to try new beer. Because my daughters one daughter likes beer and my other one likes wine, so I try to enjoy that experience with them when they're here. Mr. Tabletop.
I'm also trying new things. This is the first time I'm doing this, so that's the new thing I'm trying tonight. So the next one we have is, what gets you excited about life? So let's try with any of our guests or anyone who hasn't got a rule. Okay, let's do
What gets me excited about life? Read the Costco Connection recently, and they came up with a really good word. It's called elderhood, as opposed to retirement. Elderhood. What gets me excited is I'm now in my elderhood. What does elderhood mean? It means I'm busier now than I was when I was working. I'm taking one college class online. I'm taking 9 Institute for Learning and Retirement adult classes. I'm taking a class in Kabbalah from the Florence Melton School of Adult Jewish Learning. I'm taking a class from the Jewish Learning Institute. I'm taking seminars from the Haberman Institute of Jewish Studies. I'm mystery shopping. I'm refereeing soccer. Once in a while, I listen to the boss, and my wife says I can tell you that I'm the boss in her house, and do what she asked me to. I am busier than I've ever been. I'm learning as much as I can, as often as I can. Continuing my education. If I had known that education would be this much fun when I was younger, I would have paid a lot more attention. Mr. Tabletop, man.
Thank you. And I guess we would not have done the same, learn to speak in public while we were in class, but we didn't. Okay. The next question I have is, what would you do differently if you knew nobody would judge you? Anyone to take? What would you do differently if you knew no one would judge you?
Secrets.
What would I do if I know that nobody would judge me? try singing.
Oh
my God. Singing is so liberating. At the same time, it's like a cat and mouse to me. It's like, hey, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. And that cat comes and catch, I'm going. So it's like, you listen to all these songs, elevate yourself so high, but when you try to go sing, listening to your own voice, you're in the mood of singing that song. You just can't stop it. I go in this, try singing in the bathroom, because at the same time it mixes with the noise of the water, so it's kind of little liberating. But singing is something that I don't know why my parents didn't put me into singing. I don't know anything about singing. We tried to put my kid into this classical lessons, but he didn't. Somehow he tried, but he was attracted to something more in his age category, so he just had to didn't go that way. But my wife is more into that kind of stuff, and I get excited to hear her singing all the time, and trying to catch up with my little music in my video car stereo, and then come back and try that in my bathroom.
The next interesting one is, who do you sometimes compare yourself to? So, who do you sometimes compare yourself to? Can we have any of our guests or anyone to give a try?
First time speaking, this is fun. If you couldn't already tell, I do think I am one of the younger people here. I am in school right now, and people that I compare myself to a lot, I feel, are actually my classmates, my closest friends, which is weird. I'm friends with many very, very smart people, but at the same time, the people that are closest to us are the ones that we tend to compare ourselves to. And I found out this year that's very toxic. I'm taking art classes this year, and I couldn't stop thinking about comparing myself to them. But as I continued and I couldn't get to their level, I knew that something was wrong. And for a long time I thought it was me. It was, I'm not studying hard enough, I'm not working hard enough. But I get a little bit older and I realize it's not me that I have to change. It's not the studying, it's not how hard that I'm working, it's my mindset. You have to change your mindset. You cannot be thinking, oh, I'm not good enough. You have to be thinking and knowing, I'm doing good enough. I know that I'm trying. I think that's the key.
So the next one we have is, what can you do today that you were not capable of a year ago? So what can you do today that you were not capable of a year ago? Anyone want to take a shot? So what can you do today that you were not capable of yesterday?
Talking to someone about that today. 1 year ago, I came to Toastmasters. I came for a couple of sessions to Toastmasters. And then a very kind lady said, are you ready to sign up and become a member? And I said, yes. And we filled out the paperwork, and I got home and I said, I don't know that I'm sure about signing up. What have I done? don't see myself talking, and they do it so well. They all are so polished. I don't even know why they're there. And I looked at the paper, and I had said I was going to sign up online. I kept it there for about 2 months. And then I said, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going back. I hope none of them ever see me again. I'm out. I'm not doing this. And it's funny because now I'm here. I'm ready now. You do things when you're ready. And yeah, that's it.
Notes. Could you recap for us, please?
We had Jerry, Ruth, Leanne, Kat, Srinivas, Megan, Lisette, and me. Take a pic. I'll repeat that again. Jerry, Ruth, Leanne, Kat, Srinivas, Megan, Lisette, and Joe. Tough choice.
Megan, what school are you at?
I'm sorry?
What school do you attend?
Oh, I'm in Middletown right now.
Middletown High?
Yeah.
Evaluation portion of our meeting, please welcome Joe Hoffman.
Well, the evaluation is the most important part of any Toastmasters meeting, and I get to lead that portion. So I take over control of the meeting from our Toastmaster, and I'm the general evaluator, and I lead the evaluation portion. And so I'll get reports from all our other people that are our helpers that are also participating, and I'll give my general report. But our first evaluator, Lisa Ripion, who's going to be evaluating our speaker, Lisette. Lisette, come on up here.
Congratulations, young lady. You made it through your icebreaker. And you excelled at it. You did some really good things in your icebreaker. I know that you were a little nervous up here because we had spoken before when we were setting up. But you told your childhood story in a very endearing way. That you drew in the audience. And you did that with eye contact. You did that with varying your voice and actually talking like a child when you were deciding between the two dresses and going back and forth, and your facial expressions. Actually, when you were deciding, I thought, yeah, that looks like a 5-year-old trying to decide, oh my gosh, I don't want to give up anything. But you did, and you learned a lesson from it. But in doing that and portraying yourself that way, and your facial expressions and your voice variety, you pulled us in. And also with the fear, that was very powerful also. Because when you were talking about being huddled in that couch, you actually did crouch a bit. And so that we saw this in our mind's eye, we could envision it and feel that fear. But then you brought fear out when you were older and actually used an analogy of fear sitting beside you. It wasn't going to be in the driver's seat, it was going to be beside you, which was very powerful also. And it made an impression. I thought, yeah, because we all have fear. And sometimes it does drive us, and sometimes it keeps us from doing things, but you put it very succinctly. And I know we spoke beforehand, you wanted to talk about, I asked you if you wanted me to watch for something, you said continuity. And I do believe you carried that throughout your whole speech. One suggestion would be that when you're talking about unboxing Lisette, you should bring it up in the beginning, maybe in the middle, and then the end, and wrap it up. So we get this continuity of that in totality. But as a whole, yes, it was very good. Another thing is trying to relax up here. Your voice wasn't really shaky, but I could tell that, because I know this look, your shoulders are a little higher to your ears. So, and your emotions were a little staccato, I guess I could call it, because I know you were a little nervous. So if you can come up here and enjoy it as much as we enjoyed listening to you, you're going to be right on.
Okay, our next evaluator is none other than Beth May, who's going to be evaluating a great speaker, Jerry.
So the purpose of Jerry's speech, according to the evaluation, was to identify his primary leadership style or styles, and to share some aspect of his primary leadership style or discuss leadership styles in general. And from his speech, the main takeaway about his style that I got was inclusiveness and diversity. So I thought that it was a very effective speech to make us think about leadership and what styles there are, and to give us insight into Jerry's personal experience. And him explaining his personal experience with the Lancaster office made it more relatable and real, and gave us something that we could really think about in concrete terms. Something that Jerry, that you do very well is the use of pauses, where some others might lean on the crutch of and ah. You are masterful. And it's sometimes difficult, it's often difficult to tell the difference between, is he trying to think of what comes next because you come up with it so quickly, nah, that was for dramatic effect. And sometimes I know they're for dramatic effect, but the pace is so smooth and even, we really can't tell the difference, and we do get the dramatic effect. So something that you do very well is the use of pauses, especially when you need to think of the next thing to say. I loved the idea of bringing people along on your journey. What a great way to describe leadership. Leadership is bringing someone along on your journey. And you talked about leadership being not just about you, but about other people. And that's what bringing other people along on your journey is, and it requires inclusivity. And you talked about that from childhood and how that evolved. What I really like about that perspective is that you didn't just stick with the traditional view of leaders that we all think of, John F. Kennedy and the other leaders that you mentioned that I didn't take notes on, but the traditional leaders that we all think of as exceptional leaders, but not master leaders. Another great distinction you made. We never talk about you've mastered leadership, right? Exceptional, like from the table topic before, or great, but not master. And so you talked about John Belushi. Who would have thought John Belushi is a great leader? But when you think about the example you gave, Toga, he was bringing others along on his journey. He was inclusive, right? He got people to do stuff. It doesn't matter whether the stuff was frivolous or fun or toga parties, he was a leader. And so what a great way to open our minds to different ways to think about leadership. So I thought you excelled at that as well. Things that you could work on. Your segue from the research you did, and I never wasn't aware of this Ngram viewer, between management and leadership. You didn't really give us anything more. I would have liked a little more detail about the difference between management and leadership, and a little bit better segue to the rest. And then the ending. The ending was appropriate, but it just didn't end with a bang. It fell a little bit flat. to challenge yourself. One thing, and this is really just polishing an already great speech and a great style. So this is really just really next level stuff. When you do gestures, we all tend to do gestures in our own frame of reference. So you did a lot of left to right and you were talking about timeline, and it was flat and then it grew. If you try, this is next level stuff. If you try to do it right to left, so it's left to right for your audience, it grew. It just makes it that much more engaging. Great job tonight, Jerry. Thank you.
And that's how speeches are evaluated. Now, for our meeting evaluation, our first report will come from our timer. Oh, thank you. I should have known that. So we get to vote for our two evaluators, Roger Agenda, and I've got, figure out who I'm going to. We have Lisa and Beth. So we can move on, I'll just listen to the timer's report while we're collecting the votes.
So on time, everyone killed it. Lisette, great job, 5 minutes, 4 seconds. Jerry, just a little bit over 7 minutes, 7 minutes, 4 seconds, still under the competition limit. And then when you did your table topics, 1 minute, 44 seconds, great job. Ruth, 1 minute, 18 seconds, good. Leanne, 1 minute, 22 seconds, great job. Joe, 1 minute, 38 seconds. Cap, 1 minute, 18 seconds. Srinivas, 1 minute, 43 seconds. Megan, 1 minute, 18 seconds. And then Lisette, with your table topics, I started recording a little bit late, but estimation is around 1 minute, 30 seconds. And then for the evals, Lisa, 2 minutes, 50 seconds, right under. And then Beth, a little bit over, 3 minutes, 58 seconds. I didn't even notice, I was completely enthralled.
And next, Cap will give our grammarian report.
Didn't find a lot, but let's go through what I did find. Jerry, you included an extra word. You went the, was, my, the early, and you really didn't need the my, was the early. And you went time of diversity, and I'm not sure diversity and time are like concepts. Wilfred, you, in one of your table topics, did time doing in the last 5 years, and then when you repeated it, you left out in the last, so you just said time doing 5 years. Ruth, you went that you're able to, that you feel something, and I don't think the other that you need to be repeated, that you're able to feel something. Joe, you did, when you were talking about our word of the day, you went find or try a new word. Lisa, you went with your the fear, and I'm not sure where the you're. And Beth, you went that Jerry, that you do, and it probably would have been better if you said that you do Jerry and not repeat yourself again. Other than that, I did not find anything.
Bakari has our next report, our Odd-Counter report.
The speakers did great today. Lisette, you did very good on your ice breaker. Very minimal. You didn't have those filler words. I was very impressed. That was very, very good. And Yeri, for you, also that's very good. A good speaker, and obviously you use those poses very well. There were no filler words. They made my job easy.
Well, that concludes all our reports, and now I give my report. Well, we started on time, and the job of the general evaluator is to evaluate all the other roles other than the prime main speakers. So I'll be giving feedback to all of the participants in the meeting. So Toastmaster, my suggestion to you is to communicate your plans to the other members of your team before you start. Because there was some confusion with Sergeant Norm, didn't know that you had asked me to fill in for Beth. So he was prepared to be a Toastmaster and fill in, but you need to communicate that. The other thing, I don't recall you mentioning at the start the changes to the agenda. There was one change. Okay. Otherwise, great job, keep it moving. And then one other suggestion that we were, I think we're back on time now. So yeah, we're back on time. So good job for me catching up, because we were behind after the evacuations. I don't know how we had it happen, but we were. Timer. My suggestion, one little tidbit for you is to maybe check beforehand to see if there's any strange, or look at the agenda for the times. That way you're not surprised, but make sure you have the times ahead of time. You did a great job making sure you understood the strange device. Table topics, loved your topics. There were little, you were wondering whether anybody was gonna volunteer, but did a good job. The other thing is, the trick is to get a experienced Toastmaster to speak first. So you might wanna volunteer someone so everyone else knows, oh, this isn't so hard. So that's just my only suggestion to you. Good topics though. I like the little envelope, you pick them out, you read them twice, so people have plenty of time to think about whether they want to come up and do it. Lisa, now the evaluators. Good focus on the speaker. You were positive and you were very gentle on the oh yeah. you spoke directly to the speaker, and you were gentle on her. You had good prep because you asked her ahead of time. Oh, and then you sort of ended. Sounded like you're going to end your evaluation, and then you continued on. So,
Yeah,
so if you just well, you could have ended there, but you know, it's but you came up with another good composite. Beth, you chose the classic evaluation on the project to start off because you introduced here's what the project's about, which is good for a project. You're positive. You summarized the gist of what you heard and felt. You spoke about his strengths and what you learned from what he said. Your suggestions for improvement were the two that you did mention were very specific. And then you said challenge yourself. The only thing I could suggest that you do a little differently would be to summarize it at the end, because your summary was a little abrupt. So you did a good introduction, but it just ended a little abruptly. Let's see, that's all I have, except I will make one comment. I love that every role was filled ahead of time, but I don't know why no one wants to do the Toastmaster or General Evaluator. They're not that hard, and you have a lot of time up here to talk, and you have to do every role about 4 times, but everybody signs up for the other roles, but no one signs up for those. So that's my only suggestion, try the Toastmaster. Actually, that's not too hard, that's the easiest, right?
Yes.
The General Evaluator is a little harder, but it's also really good. You just have to practice your listening skills. So I suggest you try those roles. They're not that hard, and you can practice for your speaking. So anyway, thank you for participating.
Only in Toastmasters is there evaluators of the evaluators. Good job, Joe. Now I get to present the awards tonight, which is one of the favorite parts. When I call your name, please come up and stand by the banner. We'll have a photo of you afterwards. For best table topic, and we're going to hand out these trophies. You do have to give them back at the end. Recycle them. Come back and earn it again each time. Our best table topic this evening. Congratulations, Megan.